Who's going to start at quarterback for the Utah Utes this Saturday? Well, as only Kyle Whittingham can, he provided a very interesting update.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. It's your first time listening. Make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code Locked On College. It's all caps, no spaces, for $20 off your first purchase. My name is JT Wistrcill, excited to be joined by former Utah kicker and the founder of Optimism, as he's decided to put in his little bio thing here. Moose Bingham, kind enough to join me here. And Moose, it's not a Utah football season if there's not something going on with the Utah quarterback as it relates to an injury. And of course, Kyle Whittingham always gets to play it coy with, is he going to play? Is he not? It's just a fun game, basically. So Devin Dampier, they waited all week long, basically, to say he's available. They took him off the injury report, but Byrd Ficklin was the guy who went. Dampier was the emergency QB. And going into this week, of course, he was asked, like, hey, who's going to be the QB? And this is a direct quote from Witt, who said, the bottom line is whatever player gives us the best chance of winning, no matter the position. We've got a lot of confidence in Byrd, especially after Saturday night. But Devin is still QB1. There's no question about that, which we knew. Like, Devin is still QB1. Byrd was really good, but that was a bad Buffs team. And it was also just a bad recipe of things on Saturday night. Like, that Colorado team had no shot against the Utah team outside of just the QB. But Moose, I find it very interesting when Kyle Whittingham says the QB that, gives us the best chance to win. Because honestly, that's pretty simple. But, if Devin Dampier, are they going to start him and then he's going to hit one time in his ankle and then he's going to be out? Like, how do you determine that when Dampier's not going to be hit all week long as a quarterback? So I don't know how Utah's going to manage this.
Well, here's the thing. Kyle Whittingham loves to play games, and I love to watch him playing games. This allows teams it actually forces them to prepare for two different quarterbacks, little different running styles, little different throwing styles. And I love that because he's eating up the time of the opposition, and it's a really, really master chess move right there. So way to go, Kyle. But here's the thing. With both of these guys, I don't know how Byrd Ficklin wasn't a 4-star, highest recruited kid after watching what he did to Colorado. That first play, he's like, pulling the ball, here we go. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this kid's fast. He is elusive. He's got great burst. He does everything right, and he reads a defense really well. I think that's a real big thumbs up to Jason Beck and Coy Detmer. And I love seeing the development of these quarterbacks and what's been happening, because it is amazing to see when an offense has a starting quarterback that is so elusive, like Devin Dampier, go down, that we can just plug in Byrd Ficklin and we're ready to go.
Yeah, it's such a nice luxury this team has. So I think, Moose, if the question is then like, okay, what percentage health-wise does Dampier have to be at in order to go out there? I'd say probably 80% or better is how I would determine that he's a better option than Byrd Ficklin. It's just still tough with Byrd. I think Byrd is the future of the Utah quarterback spot, assuming, Devin Dampier comes back next year and then it's Byrd's time. I think Byrd just needs more time to continue to grow and develop as a passer, because we did see some misses early on, and he's just clearly much more comfortable as a runner right now than he is as a thrower. But when talking about like Devin Dampier also is probably in some ways more effective as a runner than a thrower, even if he is a better thrower, but his scrambling ability is next level and electric. And if he's not 100%, that does hurt him a lot as a quarterback in his effectiveness when he's out there. So to me, I'd say if Dampier is 80% healthy, I'd want him out there, but anything less than that, I'd drop Byrd out there. But this is a good Cincinnati team, so it's going to be interesting to see how Utah plays their quarterback room coming up Saturday.
Yeah, and it's really awesome, because if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago what Dampier's percentage would have to be, I'd say if he's anything above 50%. But I got 30% happier because Byrd just played so well. The Utah O-line, first string, second string, didn't matter. You could have put in me and you, and I feel like we could have ran pretty well, because this was just a team that is frustrated, but there's still a lot to play for. Utah still has a path to get to the college football playoffs and the Big 12 championship. And that's why I'm the founder of Optimism today, because I think that Utah has a great shot to win out the rest of their games.
I do too. I mean, I really like this Utah team still, Moose. You look at this offensive line, at what they do, the overall week in and week out on the line of scrimmage up front is next level sensational. The movement they generate against Colorado is crazy. You look at a guy like Wayshawn Parker when they finally unleash him last week. He's electric. You get Naquari Rogers is a nice complimentary back to him. And then Daniel Bray using him in the jet sweep motion game. He is so hard to track down. You just need a couple plays from your receivers. You have Ryan Davis, who I like for what he is for this offense. I really like Dallin Bentley. He's been the biggest pleasant surprise to me of the entire offense. And then whether it's a catch or two from a Larry Simmons, a Tobias Merriweather, who was out last week, like Utah pieces it together on offense. And defensively, I give the Utes a ton of credit. Morgan Scalley, especially, just the blitz package they came up with last week. Caden Salter said he watched 10 hours of film and he still had no idea what was coming in the way on Saturday. You have one of the best defensive ends in the nation with what John Henry Daly is able to do. Logan Fauno's looking pretty good as well, I might add. I love the linebacker unit. Trey Reynolds has made a leap. I think that Jonathan Hall is a heat-seeking missile out there. Lander Barton is good old reliable Lander Barton. The corners hold up in one-on-one, just man coverage constantly. And I thought Teo Johnson played better last week, and Jackson Benny has been a turnover-creating machine. I still think this is one of the 20 best teams in college football right now, Moose. How do you view them?
I'd even go higher. I think they're top 15, honestly. But they've had a couple of rough breaks. They played a Texas Tech team, and they played a BYU team that if the ball bounces a couple different ways, they're winning those games, honestly. And so that's the crazy thing. Utah is still a phenomenal team. I'm excited to see what they do, but they need to play off the momentum now. They need to capture that and take that into recruiting, because that's how you build a dynasty. They can't just be a flash in the pan program for this one season. They've got to build.
Oh, yeah. And recruiting is a massive thing going on. All across the country, we see guys flips, their NIL commitments, everything. It's all up in the air when it comes to that. And it helps to build on success and have a plan moving forward. And Moose, one thing that was really cool after last week was you see two guys in Jason Beck and Morgan Scalley, who CBS Sports said both of those guys were their top two coordinators in the Big 12 last week. I could argue both of them called their best game of the season on both sides of the ball. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, I've been impressed with Jason Beck this whole entire season, honestly. What he did to BYU, almost 500 yards of offense plus, and you're just like, wow, that's incredible. What he did to Colorado, you're just like, this guy's getting into a rhythm. Jason Beck is a phenomenal human being and a phenomenal coordinator. When he donned the Utah Utes logo, I was just like, they have found a rising star. And you're seeing that nationally. His name's being mentioned with head coaching jobs, and that success is breeding success. So he may not be at Utah all that long, but he is a phenomenal coach and person.
He is, and we obviously know Morgan Scalley is all of that too, why he's the head coach.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Let's go back to Jason Beck. I thought Jason Beck didn't have his best game plan against BYU based on what I watched. You watched the film. How much of the blame for the lack of touchdowns, because they did move the ball, but they didn't get it in the end zone, do you put on Jason Beck? And I don't always love the pass game concepts. What was the issue for Utah's offense against a BYU, and same thing against Texas Tech, the two best teams they've played?
I mean, let's break it down each one. Texas Tech, they just kind of got punched in the mouth. They didn't quite know what to do, and they have responded really, really well. Against BYU, you had key players missing, and Jason Beck is playing with, honestly, one hand tied behind his back because he doesn't have a receiving core that he's used to. He doesn't have a tight end room that he's used to. This isn't the most talented offensive roster I've ever seen, but he's putting everyone in positions to be successful. Outside of the offensive line, of course, I'm not saying the offensive line isn't talented, but when you're bringing in players from defense to play offensive snaps, it's saying a lot to me. But I've seen a lot of creativity from Marky Mark, from Jason, from Micah Simons. These are some incredible coaches that are just coaching their way into wins and into convincing wins as well.
That's the crazy thing is Utah is blowing out everyone except for like a Tech and a BYU. BYU, a very close game. Tech, a close game till the fourth quarter, really. So it's Utah team not far off, and they got a big test coming up against Cincinnati. But how is the future of this program looking? Moose talked a little bit about recruiting earlier, and Utah just lost out on a pretty talented recruit that we got to talk about. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And, the NBA is back too, but all about college football and NFL too. The Utah Utes going into their game against Cincinnati, 9.5-point favorites. How about that against a Bearcats team that is the higher ranked team, a top 20 team in the country? Utah, big favorites. However you're feeling about this game, make sure you head over to FanDuel Sportsbook today and sign up. You can play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. How about that, Moose? 9.5 favorites over Cincinnati. What do you think when you hear that number?
Love it. That's why I'm optimistic about it. I mean, Cincinnati, they're a very, very good football team, but they have had injuries. They've had a lot of things not go their way, and I think Utah's hitting them exactly at the right time.
I agree with that too. I feel like this Utah team is ready to roll. I don't know if I'd go 9.5. That's a lot, but I do like how this Utah team is playing. And I could easily see a Utah team winning at home by 10, especially if I think they will be able to replicate that atmosphere the fans were giving them, the energy. Things can get crazy in Rice-Eccles Stadium. You're blinking, the Buffs are down by 40. I don't think it will be like that on Saturday, but I do like Utah rolling into this one. One thing that we don't like, Moose, and I even you as the founder of Optimism can't like, is that Utah lost out on a very talented tight end recruit. A top JUCO tight end, Josiah Jefferson, flipped his commitment from Utah to USC. The 6'4", 230-pound tight end has committed to Utah since June. He's ranked the number 1 tight end in the junior college ranks. There was even a push to, at one point, try to get him onto this year's roster too, but there was a lot of excitement about what he could add next year, being the top-ranked JUCO tight end. This hurts to lose out on such a talented player that, especially in the transfer portal era, was a guy who was ready to come in and produce for you as soon as next year.
Well, Utah's done so good in the JUCO ranks for so many years. You look at Garrett Bowles. You look at
how about Dallin Bentley, their current tight end?
Dallin Bentley. Of course. I mean, Snow College has produced a lot of great players for Utah over the years, but they've also done a phenomenal job going into the California ranks as well. And you look at, I think, Steve Smith. You look at all these different guys where you're just like, this is a great place to come and play. But if that dries up, you have to go in the portal really hard. Utah, it's kind of scary. We were talking about the roster going into this next season, and you look at the roster, we're losing 7 offensive linemen from this next year, and you're just like, oh, that's a lot. And then you're like, okay, what else do we have coming in? We're losing a lot of tight ends. We're losing a lot of defensive players, guys that I think are going to end up at the next level, which is great for Utah. But you have to refill this roster, and that's kind of the reality. The nice thing is there's so many schools with head coaching changes right now that Utah needs to be scouring the country and saying, we've got a coach that's been here for 30 years, and he wants to coach you as well. He's not going anywhere, and his successor's in place. We're the model of consistency, and we're going to be 10-2 this year with a chance to go to the playoffs. So if you want to join that, you might be the piece that takes us to that next level.
You just said something very interesting there. You just said not going anywhere when referring to someone who's been in place for 30 years. I can only assume you're talking about Kyle Whittingham. Do you, as we stand here right now, think Kyle Whittingham will be back next year for Utah?
I do think he'll be back next year, but also with Kyle, he's going to be an advisor for the program after he leaves. It's not like he's really going anywhere. And the best thing about Scally is he's had mentors all the way up. When he went from position coach to coordinator, he had Jonathan Pease ready to go and help him and guide him into that coordinator position. As he takes the mantle of head coach, he's going to be guided into what to do and have Whittingham right there ready to lean a listening ear and a shoulder to help him out with, So yeah. I love that he's going to be ready to take this to the next level.
Mm-hmm. You're right. And that's a big thing, is that you have a guy like that who's been here so long, who's set the culture, and a guy who's taking over who played in a very similar culture to it back under an Urban Meyer and now has learned under Whit for so long. So it feels good for you that Utah's culture is in place. And, one thing I'll say, yes, it hurts losing Josiah Jefferson. I think he's a really talented tight end and can do a lot of things. But Moose, I do feel like Utah has their tight end one already on this roster for next season with how good JJ Buchanan is. I am stunned at how good he was listed as an athlete. I remember, I think he was a 3-star, maybe a low 4-star, but so far this year, 13 catches, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's had some like mossing guys all over the place. I cannot believe how good JJ Buchanan has already looked. He's third on this roster in receiving yards, and the 6'4" freshman, like, he just converted to tight end not too long ago too. His buy-in and physical transformation, we're all raving about true freshman Byrd Ficklin, and obviously even a few weeks back we talked about what Daniel Bray can do, but how about JJ Buchanan? He's really impressed me so far this year.
Oh, he's an absolute stud. And what could have happened is we could have put him back onto the defensive side of the ball. He still is a phenomenal athlete. And that's the thing. You can play him anywhere, and he's going to be really, really good. I love JJ Buchanan, and I think he's going to be really nice. But I want to see some 12 personnel from Utah, and it not more than an offensive lineman. I want to see someone that can go out and catch the rock as well. I know Utah does a lot of 12 personnel, but I want to see 12 personnel with options, where you can have like a Jake Murphy and a Wesley Tonga, where you're like, oh, okay, I've got 2 guys that can actually get it done. And we've had so many examples of that. And that's where Utah becomes really scary, because you almost need double cover on the tight ends. And then that allows your receivers to be one-on-one, or you have someone over the top on the receiver. And then you've got a one-on-one with the tight end where it's like, hey, I'm going against a 5'10" linebacker or a defensive end or whatever. There's just mismatches that are created through 12 personnel.
Utah needs to do a better job exploiting them. Just like Moose, they need to do a better job of getting Semi Taulonga the ball. I absolutely love that dude. He is a monster out there. And it's crazy to watch, like, a guy like Jack Kelly, who's one of the best linebackers, probably even in college football. Like, he's even goes out there, he's like, how in the world do I tackle this guy? Like, I just love every time he gets the ball in his hands.
He is a fan favorite. He is a phenomenon. It's like watching William the Fridge Perry out there, but better. I'm just like, I love Semi. He's a truck, and he's going to come at you hard. I'm laughing that he's listed at D tackle. With those hands, a lot of defensive linemen and offensive linemen are like, I can catch. You're like, no, you can't. Semi can catch, and he can run, and he's got a little wiggle too. Yeah. I love this kid. He is a stud.
How about only 5'11" too, by the way? Like, you think of all the tight ends, they're so big and tall. It's like, hey, here's 5'11" coming at you.
I don't even know if he's 5'11", bro.
You might go 5'10",
or 5'10", but he is just bam.
Hey, we love our short kings on the football field at Utah. We got Devin Dampier. We got Semi as well. Wayshawn's not the biggest. Daniel Bray. So those guys go out there and play, make plays. That's all that matters. But Moose, going back to this whole Josiah Jefferson thing, he's going to USC now. This is a thing with USC, especially, I find very interesting. I remember Aaron Dunn, the offensive tackle last year, commits to Utah. He flips to USC. Zacharias Williams was going to be the best receiver coming this year, we thought, goes through spring ball. He flips to USC. Now USC is adding one. I think even Carson Tabarachi a couple years ago, he was at Utah through spring ball, and then he flipped to USC. Now they're adding what was going to be our prize tight end recruit that we got from the JUCO ranks. What's going on here? Utah and USC. Why is USC really the one that continues to go and get all the Utah guys?
Well, Utah's found a really fertile recruiting bed in California. And USC cannot get beat by California kids. And that's what Utah's been able to consistently do. And so USC has a different pitch. Now they've got the Big Ten, and they've got Big Ten money. Honestly, it's kind of the haves and the have-nots. So Utah can definitely compete with some of these guys when it comes to the financials, but they can't compete at every position like USC can. So until Utah has the boosters that are willing to win, we're going to kind of see this happen every once in a while.
You're right. And it's unfortunate too. Some things like Zacharias Williams, like, I'm happy he's gotten this opportunity, but I see he's only had 3 catches for 80 yards. Like, if he was at Utah, he'd have much better numbers than that too. So that's the interesting thing about the NIL era too, is you see some of these guys their numbers take a hit. Who is it? Jaden Ott? I know he's been hurt a little bit, but like, I think about the year he's having at Oklahoma this year versus Cal. It just feels like we see this a lot, Moose, where guys do decide to transfer and they move up. The Oregon back who was at, what was it, Tulsa last year and like tore it up. And then he transferred to Oregon. And you work in the recruiting world. What are you kind of seeing right now with some of these guys who do move up and they don't have the success that they had at their previous school?
Well, one of the big things is they'll go to a team with money, but not the scheme that made them very successful. And you have to really look at scheme above money. And so if you perform well, you'll get the bag, but sometimes that bag doesn't last if the scheme isn't made for you.
That's a great point, and we're seeing that happen with a couple of these guys, unfortunately. I hope Zacharias Williams turns around and has the success. As I mentioned, I feel like he would have had more success had he stayed at Utah. But speaking of success, Utah wants to continue to have success in the recruiting grounds. We haven't talked recruiting in a little bit. Moose is going to dive into the Utah recruiting class for 2026 when we come back. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. How about the energy up at Rice-Eccles Stadium this weekend, or just on campus with College Game Day going to be there? It's going to be awesome. But let's also just be real. Actually getting tickets for any college football event can feel like more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at the checkout too. It can be maddening. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is genuinely what you pay. I pulled up Game Time and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football game as low as $25. I went to a P4 football game for less than $10 thanks to Game Time. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. So you can take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time too, because you can go over to download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. It's all caps, no spaces for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. Moose, we haven't talked about Utah recruiting class in a little bit. There hasn't been a ton of movement, right? You do see, like, they had LaMarcus Bell up there this weekend, the talented running back out of Oregon, although he just got an offer from Oregon, so that makes me a little nervous, but he is still committed here right now. But what recruiting trends, whether it's for Utah or, let's just start with this Utah football team. What do you think is interesting, and do you think there's some other guys, maybe even in the state of Utah, that Utah should be targeting?
Oh, I think there's so many kids in the state of Utah that they need to be targeting. Right now, it's honestly quite disappointing that we only have 3 guys committed to the University of Utah from the state of Utah. That's the Pula twins, and we also have Isa Naliai. And Isa's very good. The Pula twins are very good. And Utah's going to have to do everything they can to hang on to these 2 Pula twins. My fear is if that Utah loses the Pula twins, that knocks out a big portion of the top of your class. You could fall from – right now they're ranked 48. You could fall from 48 to 60s, 70s really quick if you lose the Pula twins. And Bell, like you said, their 4th highest commit. He got an Oregon offer. He's from Lake Oswego, only a stone's throw away from Eugene. And so it's like, oh, okay, that's hard to compete against the hometown. And so I feel pretty confident against a lot of these guys. But what this class is telling me right now is Utah's going to go hard in the portal. They're losing a lot of guys, and some of these dudes are probably going on missions too. On top of that, like I believe Bear Fisher's going on a mission. So you have to look at all of these things combined, and you're like, Utah's going to go hard in JUCO, and they're going to go hard in the portal next year because they're losing a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how Blecken comes in, constructs this roster. He's one of the best in the business. Anytime I go to a convention, he's there talking. He is the man. So I'm excited to see what Blecken does because he is a genius when it comes to constructing a roster. You guys have one of the best general managers in the game, and you've got a great young talent in Kelvin Obot coming in. He is the 5th highest rated Ute ever to commit to the program.
It's massive when you're losing guys like Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu, more than likely at this point too, due to the NFL draft. So you need to re-up and find the guys. And as you said, thankfully Utah has the GM to be able to do that. One guy they absolutely should be interested, though, I found this very interesting, Moose. He just decommitted from Minnesota. Was how do you say his first name again, Moose?
Malachi Benjamin.
Thank you, Malachi Benjamin.
Or Malachi, sorry.
Malachi Lee, yes. We'll call him Benjamin. Decommitted from the Golden Gophers, and he is from Lehigh, so not far at all, too. This is a guy who's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, like the height, like the size that he brings. This is a guy Utah should be all over, right?
Oh, absolutely. 6'7", 315. He is a 3-year starter, does a lot of good things. He's been under some great offensive line coaches. Coming in from Skyridge, he does a lot of good things. And Coach Anderson is a fantastic O-line coach as well. I mean, he is a stud, and Minnesota is kind of reeling after losing him. He could be the other bookend tackle for Utah for years to come because they need some tackles to come in and compete for those 2 open spots.
Yes, they do. And the recruiting ranks, as we mentioned, you got a lot of guys, whether it's the quarterback down at Davis as well. It's another local guy you could argue that Utah should be in on too. What other local guys that maybe we haven't talked about yet do you think Utah needs to go try and get right now? Especially those guys who did make the junior to senior jump that so often get overlooked because some of the recruiting focus starts to shift to 27 too early.
I mean, Trayden Bessinger is an absolute dog. 44 touchdowns, over 10,000 passing career yards. And he has had, I was there when he threw for over 100 touchdowns in his career. Trayden Bessinger is the real deal, but I don't know if he has that dual threat ability Utah's looking for. But I think if they were smart, building an offense around him would be amazing. Another guy that's uncommitted right now, PJ Takitaki. He is Sione Takitaki's nephew. I really like PJ, 6'4", 230. He is a defensive end that can come in and wreak havoc. The whole Lehigh team, it feels like, isn't committed. Kai Meza is a kid that was also committed to Minnesota at Corner Canyon. Kai Meza is the truth. 6 foot, 185. He's been on visits to Cal, and he's going up to other schools as well. Utah needs to go to their own backyard. Kai Meza is a kid that could absolutely dominate for him as well. I think those are kind of the big ones for him. And then you get down and there's some other kids that are very interesting where you're like, I wonder what this kid could do. Like Matakiai Tonga Hevea, the 6'6", 300-pound tackle from Lehigh, has offers as well. So you're sitting there, might be worth a trip to Lehigh for a little bit into Corner Canyon if you're the University of Utah.
Absolutely agree. You can't let the under-the-radar guys slip away from you, especially when the top-ranked guys are going to get scooped up by high NIL offers. We already talked about what happened with Aaron Dunn, and you see this with a lot of these guys where you think they're yours and they're really highly touted, and then someone else ends up getting them. And Utah's always done really well finding those under-the-radar, the hidden gems, and something they need to do again. Really quick, Moose, because I do have another recruiting question for you after this one. Would you agree? I feel like John Henry Daly's gone after this year. With the year he's having, I feel like he's going to be NFL-bound, right?
I think he needs. Oh.
I mean, he just torched Jordan Seaton. Like he has 10 sacks.
You know what? He might be. In my head, John Henry Daly is like still a young pup because he just got home from his mission, did a red shirt at Utah, played a year
BYU,
at BYU, right? Red shirt at BYU, and then played a little bit at Utah. And he might be gone. That is nuts to me. But the iron's hot. He might as well go to the NFL. I haven't even thought about that, to be honest with you.
It would hurt Utah, but I just don't know how he boosts his stock anymore. Like if he comes back for another year, I'd love it if he did, but that just could be another position that Utah has to continue to re-up. And, speaking of John Henry Daly's former place, BYU, that's an area where it is a little frustrating when you're talking about in-state recruiting now. Moose, if you're a Utah fan, you and I used to call high school football games together. And, we called a big Lander Barton game. We've called big Smith Snowden, big Spencer Fano. Those are some of the recent Utah high school stars that have made a ton of plays for the University of Utah. You and I also called games for Cialia Serra, BYU's now starting linebacker. You get the safety from Bountiful there, I forget his last name, but he's really good. Thank you. He's really good too. Hunter Clegg is there, Cecilia Kana. So a lot of the best local guys, and they have that offensive tackle from Timpview who went to Bishop Gorman, and now he's coming back there too. A lot of these really good high school football players now, I feel like there was a stretch Utah was getting all of them. Now a lot of them are going to BYU, and that does concern me, especially after we've lost 3 in a row to the Cougars.
Yeah, BYU has 5 of the top 10 in the state right now. Yeah. And the one that kind of drove the dagger into my heart was Celeste Moa for Utah, the number 1 recruit in the state. But then you also have...
Well, he went to Tennessee, right?
He went to Tennessee. Yeah. Isun Taufa going to USC. Helaman Kasuga got to Texas A&M. But that makes it really hard. Utah only has 1 commit in the top 10 for the state of Utah. And that is a trend that I don't love, to be honest with you.
And I feel the same way. When the best guys are choosing your in-state rival, and we know their NIL is in a better place than us, and they've won 3 in a row, that's just not a good thing that's going on for Utah. They still have the recruiting and development, and Utah is right there, obviously, with a BYU. They are one of the top 25 teams in college football ranking-wise right now. And if they got another crack at BYU in the Big 12 title game, a lot would need to happen. But who knows? It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Moose, it's always great having you on, my friend. Thank you for joining us, the founder of Utah Optimism. Please let everyone know the many things you have going on.
Well, one, just tune into the Utah Preps podcast. We're going to be releasing our all-state list, and a lot of these guys are Utah targets. So make sure you tune into that and see who the top players are coming up that Utah needs to grit.
Awesome. Well, make sure you check him out there, and you can see him soon as well with KSL Sports Rewind high school coverage. He always does a great job there too. Moose, thanks for making the time to come on, my friend.
Always a pleasure, JT. See you later.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. Make sure you guys keep an eye out as well for the Locked On Big 12 Squad Show this week. Should be a really fun one as we break down Utah, Cincinnati, and continue to do so all week long on Locked On Utes.